Well, tonight we attempt to explain the inexplicable. Is it possible to live on in your body after you've passed away? Well, recently in Dunedin, a man died. A doctor certified him dead. Now, here's the curious bit, the bizarre bit. For the following 3 weeks, the body lay on a bed, cross-legged, beneath a flimsy shroud with no discernible deterioration. No rigor mortis, no smell. How can that be? Well, doctors and scientists can't explain it, but Buddhists in Dunedin say they can. Here's John Hudson.
A mysterious funeral for a Tibetan monk. For hundreds of years, this ceremony has been held across Asia, whenever Buddhists cremate their dead. But this isn't Asia, it's Dunedin, and the body being cremated is that of a spiritual master. But what's really astounding is that the spiritual master, Thupten Rinpoche, has been dead for 20 days, his body showing little decay before being cremated. That's because, his followers say, he's been in a death meditation.
From our point of view, his mind is still in his body. His breathing has stopped, his heart has stopped, and his body's cold, but his mind is still there.
Thupten Rinpoche is considered to be a reincarnate Lama. He lived a remarkable life, entering a Tibetan monastery at just 4, meditating on compassion for the next 66 years.
The essence of his practices, I think, were devotion to others, care of others, and as a result, people loved him. You know, they really loved him for that.
When I heard about Thupten Rinpoche's death meditation a fortnight ago, I asked to see his body.
Thank you very much.
The lamas here at the Dagi Buddhist Centre welcomed us in and agreed to allow our cameras into the room where Thupten Rinpoche was lying cross-legged on a bed. He certainly looked dead.
And he's been dead for 15 days.
15 days?
15 days, yeah.
Thupten Rinpoche was lying under a shroud. The room temperature, 13 degrees. They showed me his face, his hair, his legs, and they told me he'd died of stomach cancer.
How long before Thupten does he think will leave his body? What?
Maybe it will take some time. Months, weeks, we don't know how long.
Will he decide when he leaves his body?
Yes, he chooses when he leaves his body.
And how will you know when he's finished, when he's gone?
Sometime in the end, there is some blood, and it's smelly.
Because I can't smell any decay. Has he had any form of embalming fluid or anything like that put into his body?
No, nothing.
Nothing at all.
He's dead in terms of medical science, but his mind is still in his body. So to cremate him now would be, you know, tantamount to murder, really.
So he's the living dead in a way.
Sounds a bit macabre, doesn't it?
Not necessarily. His mind is there, but his body's dead.
Yes, that's right. He's not coming back. We're resigned to that, but his presence is still there.
What's happening here is just astounding. It's incredible. I've seen a number of people die of cancer in my lifetime, but the man under the shroud here died on May the 24th. That's weeks ago. And yet there's no smell at all. His skin is still elastic. His hair isn't falling out. I'm told there's been no chemicals added to his body. His body hasn't even gone into rigor mortis. Now, to many people, that's kind of spooky. But to the Buddhists here, it's not entirely surprising.
No, not a huge surprise to us. The Tibetan common understanding is that these people can choose where they are born again. And maybe if you're able to do what he's doing now, perhaps that's not such a stretch, that also you can choose where you're born again.
But perhaps he wasn't dead at all.
He wrote on the death certificate it was a gastric cancer and it had spread around his body.
We wanted to make sure that Thupten Rinpoche had died when we were told he had died. So we went to his doctor, Jeremy Hay.
He died on the night of the 24th of May.
So 16 days ago now.
16 days, yeah.
How do you determine that somebody is dead?
It's a matter of listening to their heart for a period of time, making sure that there's no heart sounds or no breath sounds, and that's what I did.
It's hard for non-Buddhists to get their head around this. Would you like to see this studied in more depth?
Very much so, especially since His Holiness has asked us to try and do that.
His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, is the spiritual leader of the Tibetan Buddhists. He has had a lifelong interest in science and has said he's prepared to jettison Buddhist doctrines if they're shown by science to be false. He told me the death meditation is known by Tibetan Buddhists as Tukdam and is practiced by spiritual masters.
Can you explain what Tukdam is and how it works?
At the time of death, when heart beating stop, brain dead, but still the subtle level of consciousness, mind, still there.
His Holiness says there have been 30 to 40 cases of Tukdam recorded in India over the past 50 years.
One case, the longest, I think, 4 weeks remain. Body fresh.
I saw a body that looked quite well preserved.
Dunedin GP Stephen Graham had seen Thupten Rinpoche 8 days after death. A further 8 days later, we asked him to take another look.
Has there been any change since you saw him last?
I'd probably say there's been a small change in some of the skin, but there's no sign of, I suppose, corruption, you know, of no smell or anything like that.
You would expect there to be some smell?
Yeah, there's no smell. No smell at all.
While the Dalai Lama admires science, scientists and Buddhists tend to have differing views on how to explain reality. Buddhists believe mental and physical states have equal claim on reality, and the mind is quite separate from the brain. Whereas neuroscientists believe the mind depends on the brain. After the break...
And the brain dies with death?
The brain dies with death.
And what should a body look like 20 days after death?
Distension and swelling, probably some odour.